Hello guys, my name is Shonte Drakeford, and today I'm just going to discuss my infertility journey. Currently I am 37, and at the age of 35 I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer as my initial diagnosis that has spread to my lungs, my hip, my spine, and my rib. I thought I had breast cancer as early as 25 years old, but I was ignored and denied and refused a mammogram and high-risk screening and biopsies and things of that nature. It started with nipple discharge that eventually turned bloody, that turned into a cyst, that turned into a hard 8-centimeter tumor in my right breast. I am triple positive, and during that time frame I was getting infertility treatment. So 5 years before, my husband and I was trying to conceive and have a baby, and we started at the age of 25. We were high school sweethearts, so we've been together for a really long time, and we planned this out. I'm an Army spouse, so we've moved around, and we just wanted to have a kid. So they always tell you after the first year you don't need to worry about it, it's fine. So that first year went by and I didn't get pregnant. And I had been on birth control since we were teenagers, since I was 16 years old. I don't know if that had something to contribute to it. I had Depo, and I did NuvaRing eventually after that. And then the year my husband deployed to Iraq, I got off my birth control. So I had a whole year clean slate, free, to kind of get all that out of my system. So when he returns, I could just have my babies like I want, right? So that was like at age 25, 26, right? So I got off my birth control. I had all these weird symptoms. Eventually found out I had endometriosis. My periods was very heavy, very painful, and also I noticed that's when I started to get the nipple discharge. So all these things started to kind of happen after I stopped my birth control, which was weird for me. So in the interim, my husband did deploy another time, and right before his second deployment to Afghanistan, we had initiated IUI. IUI is intrauterine insemination. I started for the first couple of years with Clomid, which is a pill you take every month. That wasn't effective, so we moved up to IUI. Then when my husband returned from Afghanistan, I think I did about 3 or 4 rounds of IUI, was not successful. Turned out, and even before I started my infertility journey, I did get an HSG, which is the test to kind of look at your fallopian tubes. They both were patent when we first started. So when he returned from Afghanistan and we did a few IUIs, we did another examination. Turned out my right fallopian tube was blocked. My left fallopian tube was good, but my right ovary was given the best eggs, but my left ovary was not producing the best quality of eggs. So when those things happen, it's kind of hard to do IUI, because now your body can't naturally perform, and it may not fertilize the best product because now my tube is blocked. So I demanded that I get a surgery to remove all the adhesions from my endometriosis. Technically, the only way to confirm you have endometriosis is through surgery, which I did. And turned out I had adhesions everywhere. On my uterus, on my bladder, some on my intestine. Like, they called it stage 4 endometriosis. So they cleaned out as much as they could. We did a few more IUIs. Then just went to IVF. And which is in intro vitro fertility. And that's when I started on hormones even more. A long while, I'm still having symptoms of breast cancer, and still being denied a mammogram, still being denied a biopsy, and all these things. So it's kind of all happening at the same time. So a year before my diagnosis, I did IVF, and that requires a lot of injections every month. I took a lot of oral medications, and let me see. Yeah, that was pretty tough. A lot of hormone, mood swings, weight gain, things like that. But I was willing and able to try to have a child. And I was a foster child growing up. And, you know, of course you want your own biological child. But we were like, if this doesn't work, we're open to adopt. So we did IUI. I had my egg retrieval. And we got about 25 eggs out. Only 16 were mature. And out of those 16, only 4 fertilized. So in hindsight, I think like the cancer that I had was in essence stopping the fertility process. It was just invading everything. So 4, you're usually at least expected to have 8 or 9 or 10. So I'm working with 4 now. So day 5 is when your embryo is the best time to transplant. So the first 2 days, one of them didn't make it. So they called me in for the day 3. So day 5 embryo is the ideal moment to transplant the eggs into the uterus. So the first 2 days I lost 1 embryo. It didn't make it. So now I'm left with 3. So they made a decision to transplant 2 on day 3, which is not the best time to do it, but it still can be successful. So my husband and I, we leave, and we go transplant. I thought it was a beautiful moment. We got the pictures, you got to see everything, the actual process. And then you wait. You wait for 2 weeks, and you hope and pray. You kind of sit still and you wait, and you're like, hopefully it took maybe about 3 days before I was supposed to take my pregnancy test. I had a gush of blood. And I promise you, I felt like I was pregnant before. Like, I just felt like I was having these smells, smelled funny, but it didn't take. So that really devastated me. I started crying, and now I'm only left with 1 embryo. And so they called me on day 5, and that embryo didn't even make it. It wasn't even good enough to freeze, because I was like, well, maybe I'll have at least 1 to freeze, so that way I won't have to do the whole entire IVF process again. All I would have to do was come in during the time I'm supposed to ovulate and then transplant that embryo, but it didn't make it. So I was really bummed, because we went through all of that, the surgery, the shots every day. I mean, it was months and months of preparation, and it didn't take. And so I was just like, wow. And then that very next year, I got diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And that just took my heart, and I'm triple positive. So that really depleted my chances of even having a baby. So I can't even do surrogacy if I wanted to. Because I'm triple positive, hormones would literally kill me. So I could not continue the process. So I was devastated. But a year after my diagnosis, I was still optimistic to adopt. Again, I mentioned I am a foster child. I've been in and out of the system. It was always in my husband and I plan to adopt an older child, because when I turned around 10, I noticed no one would want me, because they assume because I'm a teenager that I'm a bad child. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, And so, I grew up in an urban poverty area. And so it was a lot of stigma behind that. And so I always wanted to adopt for an older child. So I went on many places before I was even diagnosed. After the failed IVF, I went to interview a whole bunch of agencies, even with the county, to do foster to adopt program. And the pricing is definitely much cheaper because I was getting an older kid, and I was accepting siblings from 5 and above. And so that price is cheaper. It's usually like $8,000 versus $20,000 for a newborn. And I'm like, if I'm gonna get a newborn, I might as well. No, I don't want to get a newborn because I don't want to go through those sleepless nights and daycare, childcare costs, and just, instant kid. We could just go travel and everything. I went agency shopping and everything, and I found my place. I was going to put in my deposit, but this is when I went and got the MRI from this very hard 8-centimeter breast lump that I had. And I was like, well, let me see what that is. I'm thinking it was benign, because I had a lot of other benign things. At least that's what they've been telling me since I was 25. It was benign. Never offered a mammogram, never offered a biopsy, because they didn't want to interfere with my fertility. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, that turned out being cancer, and so I did a halt. So a year after my cancer diagnosis, I was optimistic and was going to go back to adopt. But then they told me, because I have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and because I won't be in remission ever, because I have to have lifelong treatment, that I cannot get a kid. That although my husband is very medically capable, they don't allow children. Nowadays it's probably better, but this was back in 2015, and I don't think the support was as there like it was. So ultimately I had to accept that I would not have children. So now I have 6 beautiful, 6+ honestly, godchildren, and very happy about that. That's my husband.
Who's that?
Making a video about our fertility journey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bang, bang. No.
He's very inappropriate. Anyway, so yes, that's our journey. Do I have any regrets? No. Would I do everything again? Yes. I just hope that people in the future have more capabilities. I'm hearing now people who have stage 4 have more options, and now they are able to do surrogacy. Some are able to adopt even now. And so I fulfill my child fulfillment, because I don't have any children, through volunteering with foster children to help impact them and give them some positive outlook that although you come from the system, that you can be better. And ultimately I think this is God's plan, and it's a purpose behind everything. So I always look at everything from a silver lining. And I probably honestly wouldn't even have any energy at this time, my husband or I, to take care of children, but that wouldn't stop me from doing it for sure. So I wish we would have been able to conceive, but 5 years of infertility drugs, it was tough, it was rough, but I'm grateful for the process. And like I said, I look at everything in a silver lining, and I just hope that this story can inspire everyone. I'm gonna go and try to find my embryo's picture, because I still have it, just as a momentum that I went through that process, and I honor that process. And now I'm able to give other people advice on that process, because honestly I don't even see a lot of Black women, if they are even discussing about their infertility journey, because the misconception is that you guys didn't do it right, you wasn't in the right position, or no one ever assumed that we actually had issues conceiving. And on my husband's side, everything was great on his end, but no one ever thinks about getting the support person who's doing the sperm side of it, checking out. So we did check both of us out, and it ended up being me because I had endometriosis, I had clogged duct, not clogged duct, a clogged fallopian tube, and a ovary that just wasn't producing great eggs. And so I had a lot of factors against me. Plus, I think I had cancer the whole time I was trying, because I started around 25 years old. So I don't know. It was difficult, but I'm glad I went through it. But I just hope that people with the resources nowadays have the access to have a child in whichever way. I mean, they even have options where you can adopt embryos, so that way you can still have the process to carry it. So I just think that was fascinating, and everyone's journey is different, and you just go through it how you go through it. I was sad about it many times, but I also went through acceptance at each stage. So I accept my infertility. I accept the journey that I had with infertility. I accept that I cannot adopt. I accept that I have cancer and it's terminal. But I also accept that I have beautiful, beautiful children in my life that I can pour into. So it isn't in vain. Does that make sense? So again, my name is Shonte Drakeford. I hope I was able to inspire, educate, and just really speak about my infertility journey. I'm very open and honest about this process. So I will catch you guys later. Thank you for the rest of us.